Here at 3:03 p.m., which means at 2:30 Eastern Time, the New York Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau. It reads here that the New York Knicks are relieving Tom Thibodeau of his duties as head coach. Sources tell ESPN Thibodeau led the Knicks to their first Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years, made the playoffs in 4 of 5 years, and led the Knicks to consecutive 50-win seasons for the first time since the 1990s. But what Sharm Sarania is not saying is the Knicks should have beaten the Pacers. There's no other way to put it. Much of the time during the contest, the Eastern Conference Finals, the Knicks look like they're putting it in half gear instead of whole gear, and they would execute one successful defensive scheme only to not repeat the defensive scheme the next game and go back to the scheme that didn't work and lose. To me, it looked like some of the Knicks were being paid to throw the game. I'm just saying. And too often we had images on television of Thibodeau standing there seemingly powerless to do anything, just being a spectator of his own funeral. And, well, he got fired right here. Let's see what some of the comments are right now. And there's thousands of them rolling in literally by the second. Chuck D says the first New York, the effing New York Knicks this century is packed with microwave impatient. And Brandon says Knicks are about to make a woke hire. Bet on it. Heart Heat Form says, what a bad year for some of the greatest coaches we've seen in our league. AP Hoop says, got the furthest they've ever been and they fired the coach. Noah Basketball said, well, that's an advertisement, so we'll skip that. Brendan says, I'm disgusted. Tom Thibodeau is a great coach and deserved to see this build through. We're just entering a championship window. He was just signed to an extension last year, so this had to be a Dolan decision. No way Leon made this decision. I don't care what the Knicks PR says, public relations. Harrison Stanford says, Tibbs deserves a ton of credit for bringing respectability and ushering in a new iteration of great Knicks teams, but legitimate questions could be asked about his ability to adopt a more modern offense. Apparently, the Knicks thought he couldn't. Yeah, Harrison, I agree. He has the old half-court style, and he doesn't appear to be intellectually interested. Not that he can't intellectually interested in installing of his version or a version of the famed fast break style that the Warriors popularized, and which really was the one that the Lakers popularized under Showtime, settling for something that was, well, back to another time. And, not surprisingly, the Pacers were able to score faster and build up quick leads in a hurry, whereas the Knicks took time. And we have stats says the media and talking heads got him fired. All their comments on him being outcoached and his sub patterns during the broadcast give the Knicks the excuse to scapegoat him. One of the responders here said, well, that's why the Knicks are the Knicks. Thank you for commenting, by the way. So, my feeling about the Knicks coach, well, I'll share that in a little bit. I just want to continue reading these comments by other people. Gaetano Nidardi writes, everyone chirping fire Tibbs. Got their wish. Now, when the next head coach doesn't make it to the NBA Finals, I don't want to hear blank. Tibbs got the Knicks very far with a limited bench and a roster that's not constructed to win a championship. Some of the criticisms are valid, but I do not agree with firing Tibbs. Knicks got outplayed by the Pacers 2 years in a row. Plain and simple. What's everyone going to be saying next year? Well, get somebody that is more intellectually capable of countering what Rick Carlisle, the Knicks coach, the Pacers coach, throws out and asks his team to do next year. That's what you do. Johnny Thunderbird writes, Knicks fans will give it to me for saying this, but I don't care. Terrible choice. Tibbs took a job nobody wanted when the Knicks hired him. Each year, Tibbs made the franchise better and better, led them to their first conference finals in 25 years. The Knicks were a laughing stock when Tibbs was hired, and he led them to becoming today a top destination for players and coaches. To fire him after this run is a shallow mistake. He has two responses. One of them says, not only was it a terrible job, but they also said he was a bad hire and was a failure. Laugh out loud. A lot of people don't know ball. Glad you're saying something factual. Ghost of Trumpy Kane says, awesome now. So now we're in a position to hire a better coach. See, I agree with this. He is what he is. He's good enough to get you to the playoffs, which is what the Knicks needed at the time. Yeah, he's what you would call a coach killer. In other words, a person good enough to get you there, but not good enough to win you the championship. There are those kind of coaches. And I think the Knicks rightly discovered that and said, we need to make a change because you have a blueprint of what you can do and how. But now need to get somebody to go beyond that blueprint and bring a different approach. For all of his greatness in terms of getting the Knicks to the playoffs, when it came again to facing a team that plays fast, he came up short, and that's just the fact of it. And they were all fixable too. These were fixable problems, to say the least. Let's go back and see rather what others. Now, DraftKings writes, fired after an Eastern Conference Finals appearance. Ugh. Okay, and we have to ask what Stephen A. said because, well, he's Stephen A. So let's get his words because I can't get him on video. Let me go back over here. Stephen A. with an E. Smith. All right. So Stephen A. Smith, there he is. The real Stephen A. Smith, right here. And he did not issue a tweet reflecting his opinion yet, because this just happened, so he's undoubtedly doing something else. And what he did say, Carlos is sad. It's a founding member franchise. That crowd really got behind the team. Yeah, they do. No question about it. Knicks fans are almost one of a kind. Now, Stephen A. wrote, it's time to even things up, talking about the Eastern Conference Finals, steal one on the road, and go back to New York for Game 7. And I'm riding with all Knicks for tonight's ladder parlay. Let's get 25 points from Brunson, 20 from Carl Anthony Towns. And David Squires says, it seems a little harsh. David Squires is one of our vloggers. And he says, get on Game 6. Yeah, the consensus right here. Here's Dave's. And I appreciate the comment. I don't know that it's harsh, Dave. My sentiment was to do what they did because they seemed like they were stuck. They just seemed like they were stuck. That they couldn't get past the Pacers. It's like, well, all right, we don't need to make any changes because look, we were satisfied to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but if you watched that game, you knew that if they maintained the defense that they utilized in Game 5, they would have won. It's almost like like Thibodeau was saying, "Well, we don't want to be predictable and lay out the same approach." Well, if it worked, use it. Make them stop it. And he didn't do that. He went back to the approach he used the game before Game 5, and that was a real head scratcher to me. That really was uh, a real head scratcher. So I don't know about that, Dave. Let me see here. Go back to the NY Knicks. See what was done here. Okay. New York Knicks. Let me see if the New York's. Let's see. I should be following them. I am now. New York forever. 2.4 million followers. And yeah, 18 minutes ago, the New York Knicks posted on Twitter, "Thank you, Coach Thibodeau. Thank you, Tom Thibodeau." And this statement: "Our organization is." Let's see if I can. Uh, yeah. Our organization singularly focused on winning a championship for our fans. This pursuit led us to the difficult decision to inform Tom Thibodeau that we've decided to move in another direction. We can't thank Tom enough for pouring his heart and soul into each and every day of being the New York Knicks head coach. He led us not only with class and professionalism for the past 5 seasons, but also to tremendous success on the court with 4 playoff berths and 4 playoff series victories. Ultimately, we made the decision we feel is best for our organization moving forward. Tom will always be a part of our Knicks family, and we truly wish him nothing but the best in the future." That's was written by Leon Rose, the general manager of the New York Knicks. And let's see what the comments were here coming in. After that, this track sounds a little heavy. Tibbs put heart into this team and turned us around. Knicks fans need to be grateful for him. There. Warriors moved on from Mark Jackson and got Steve Kerr. Tibbs turned them into a competitive playoff team. We need to get the right guy to take us over the top. Now, this is a great point because I remember being upset that when the Warriors fired Mark Jackson, but they clearly had a plan. But they got Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr had, and no one realized this at the time except perhaps Joe Lacob, an innovative approach that they unleashed the next season and immediately rattled off 17 straight wins. So I'm going to guess that the Knicks didn't do this out of anger. They have somebody in mind. They have an approach in mind, probably not dissimilar from what the Warriors have done. That's just my take. And digital media advocate and personality writes, then why not just move him upstairs and hire another coach? I guess it isn't that simple, but thank you, Coach Tibbs, for 5 seasons of turning the Knicks from a dumpster fire to a winning team. Best wishes moving forward. Courtside commentary says, turned us back into a competitive franchise and made the Knicks a winning franchise again. And then Trevor Tatum says, wow, we packed him. Brendan says, thank you for everything, Tibbs. You're a great coach and didn't deserve to be fired. You will always be remembered fondly. Charlie Quinn says, Tibbs won a playoff series every year as coach, helped turn the culture and franchise around, ended sourly, but got to give him his respect. Hope the next coach brings New York a title. Thank you. Tibbs will always be a big part of the Knicks organization. Greatest Knicks coach of my lifetime. Thank you, Tibbs. Once a Knick, always a Knick. I hope they make Cat the new coach just so we can see the plays he calls up. Carl Anthony Towns. Oh boy. No longer a head coach, but still with the organization from what I'm hearing since he signed an extension. And Brunson ankles survived Tibbs' era. Poverty franchise. Tibbs gone. Now the Knicks will be back to being a play-in team. Book it. Lamau 2 wins away from the finals and you fire the coach. Legacy of failure indeed. Knicks to hire LeBron and he becomes a player and head coach and brings in Bronny James. Frank Kopolov says, I knew this was going to happen long ago. Say Less writes, greatest season in 25 years, beat Boston and brought the city together for once. Good luck, coach. Yeah, that was a bit much. I mean okay. I understand why it was done, and I understand the sentiment. And maybe you could just say maybe they should have treated him like Tom Landry and gave him a 10-year contract and called it a day. Whatever the case, the way the Knicks lost in both years, the last 2 years to the Pacers was just frustrating to watch. It just was. And clearly you have to ask, hey, look, are we stuck in this or can we get out of it? So they're willing to roll the dice, find the right person and see what happens. Again, look at what the Warriors did. Sometimes you have to in order to make an omelet, you have to break some eggs. Lanto says, why? We have been getting farther every year and have a system in place. If we're losing consistently with this roster, okay, but what? Patrick Cutler says, take a team for their first conference finals in 25 years and he's fired? Shaking my head. Coop says, craziest shit I've ever seen all season. No logical explanation for this one. Quick says, thank you. Now fired. Jay says, don't take any coaches from Minnesota, please. Parquet says, from winning starters in the fourth quarter of a blowout. Michael J says, I don't like this. I think Tibbs deserved one more year. Bro got canned after overachieving. Wild. Luke Garrett says, was firing Tibbs the right move? 70% say no. 29% say yes out of 528 votes so far. That poll is only 22 minutes old. It'll get bigger. Eliminated at the hands of Halliburton. Bro made history after 25 years just to be skunked, says Emporia. VFam says NBA GMs treating playoff success like red flag now. Wanted. Billy the Kid Donovan. This is the dumbest decision you could have made, says USF Muscovy. Romeo says, this league. Joe says, thank you, Tibbs. Robbie Banger says, very ballsy. I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. Fired for no fault of his. Lanta says, we legit just had the most successful year we've had in the past 25 years. And he gets fired. He wasn't fired when we sucked, but did when we are at new heights. I don't understand the NBA. Flo says, thank you, Tibbs. Carl Anthony Towns is like, here, baby. Insane move. This might be one you regret, says Tommy. And Betsroll says, right before the finals? No. Well, yeah, right before the finals. Gage says, NBA teams will have an epic fail this season and start firing folks. And the whole time they lost games because they have no midley. The big man can't make layups and like to shoot threes. Got a point there. Open for work. See ya, bozo, says Nash. Felix Nunez says it was about to happen. He relied on a six-man system, which does nothing in the playoffs. You need to use the entire team. However, it led us to see the promised land like the coaches before. Dolan is a joke, says Gimstar. Thank you, finally. This franchise is committed to failure. Well, let's see what they do, because I, for one, thought it was a good move. I'm sorry, I just did. I understand that he did the Knicks a lot of good, but And look, but as number pointed out, was 5 years, and they extended his contract. They're not going to take his money away from him. So, from a financial standpoint, Tibbs is going to be just fine, just fine. And the Knicks are free to pursue a new direction. Look forward to your comments. This will not be the last video I make on this. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. The Vlog Report with Zenny62. Thank you.